Good news for you is we're joined right now by Kathy Barnette. It's her first time on Liquid Lunch. She's the author of Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. Her second time on Liquid Lunch. My apologies. And her book is Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, Being Black and Conservative in America. She's also a candidate for the U.S. Congress in the 4th District of Pennsylvania. Kathy, you heard a little bit of my stuff on Kamala Harris. I'd really love to hear it from an African-American woman seeking office. What does this appointment mean to you?
Yeah, there's so much to say. There's so many places I can start, but I guess my first thought was, go figure, Biden found someone who can be his running mate that has perhaps done more damage to the minority community than he himself has. When you take a look at Kamala Harris, the hypocrisy of her being the vice president will keep on giving all the way through November 3rd. Let's remember, when she was the Attorney General of California and as a prosecutor in California, she participated in some of the most aggressive, tough on crime stance than any other place in the nation. There in California, while she was there sitting as Attorney General and as a prosecutor, Black men were incarcerated at a rate of 5 times their actual rate in the population itself.
Wow.
And I'll never forget when Tulsi Gabbard called her out on incarcerating over 1,500 people for marijuana violations, and then had the audacity to laugh when someone asked her if she had ever smoked marijuana. So that was my first thought, right? I'm just kind of recapping
Kathy,
all of what
Kathy,
we know about her.
I don't want to lose one point there. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to ask you something. Right, she was on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne the God, and they asked her if she smoked weed. She started laughing, like, of course I do. But meantime, the 94 crime bill, which Joe Biden has bragged about being the author of, was the law that set into conjunction with Kamala Harris to go out and prosecute those people. So it was Joe's bill that turned into her mission to bring down, if you ask me, to unfairly persecute minorities and throw them in jail for minor drug crimes.
Listen, again, like I said at the very opening, go figure, only Joe Biden would find a VP candidate who has done more damage to the Black community than he himself has. And again, while she was Attorney General and prosecutor in California, Black men were incarcerated at a rate 5 times their actual proportion of the population there in California. That's astounding. At the time, California had one of the most aggressive, tough on crime stances. But so that's one piece of the puzzle. But then you look at reality that was very sad to me as I've been hearing about, he has to pick a woman, he has to pick a woman of color, is that still within the Democratic Party, the greatest value about me as a person is the color of my skin. I walk into a room, they see that I'm Black. Okay, shut up. You must be a Democrat. We'll give you your ballot and you can go over there and vote like we tell you to. But although, yes, I am Black, and yes, the color of my skin has given me a perspective and life that I believe I would not have if I wasn't Black. But that is not the only thing about me. I am also a human being. I'm a mother. I'm a veteran. I'm a wife, and so many other things. And not one of those aspects about me actually define who I am. But to the Democrat Party, I am nothing more than a political box that they can stick in and pull out whenever it's time for a Democrat to.
It's unbelievable. Now, one of my earlier guests, Xen Sams, she's a Hollywood producer. She's quite liberal in her own right. But she was talking about how Rita Ora is not Black, that she has 2 white parents, but she does this thing that she portends to be Black, and it's called blackfishing, where people try to identify as African Americans. And there's all this stuff on social media talking about how Kamala Harris's parents, one's Jamaican and one's Indian. Do you think she's actually African American somewhere in there? Well, it's hard for me to tell.
She's not African American. Her father is Jamaican. Her mother is Indian. And on any other given day of the year, I wouldn't care. Who cares?
Right,
But
exactly.
we're talking about the VP of the most powerful nation in the world, and we're talking about a president or a potential president, Vice President Joe Biden, who has the mentality that in order to pander, he needs to get a woman, but not just any woman. He needs to get a black woman, right, or a woman with darker pigmentation. I am more than just the pigmentation of my skin, and I'm really curious on how having either a pair of ovaries or a dark pigmentation is going to help us as a nation deal with some very real issues that we have. China is not playing around with us. They're going to become a very big issue for us very quickly, perhaps even before the November 3rd election. And so I'm very curious on how those particular aspects, either having ovaries or darker pigmentation, is somehow going to bring some insight to the negotiation tables or to the table when we're looking at these geopolitical or even domestic issues. And that is perhaps one of the greatest offenses, because it's not, I mean, any dark pigmentation would do. Let's just find someone with dark
Yeah,
pigmentation,
right. So let
and
me
we
let me
will
ask
dangle
Kathy.
that
I want to
person in
ask
front
you
of
this. I
everyone.
want to ask you this. Joe Biden has gone through a series of really racially insensitive things, right? He's basically said that if you're not voting for me, you ain't black. Then he went on to talking to a bunch of Latinos. He said, well, the Latino community is very different than the African American community because Latino community is diverse and there are a lot of different types of people in there. Basically saying the black vote is a monolith. The other day he came out and said, when pandering to a couple of Asian organizations, he said, most people don't individualize between Japan and China and Korea. It's all Asian. So he kind of cast them all in one stroke. As a power woman, a veteran, someone, a mom, I got to ask you this. If you went into a room to seek an office, and I know the deal, there's a lot of back rooms before you become a candidate, right? And there was a whole bunch of different people in there, men, women, all different colors, all different sizes. And they said, all right, everyone, the only thing we're seeking for this office is an African-American woman. Everyone else leave. Would you feel good about staying?
You know what? I mean, it's just so offensive, right? I mean, yes, I tell my story often. I'm a little black girl who grew up on a pig farm in southern Alabama. I grew up below the bottom rung of the economic ladder. I had to claw my way from up under a rock. And I stand on the shoulders, like we all do, some very mighty giants. My great grandma Rhoda, born in 1846, she was born a slave. I have the blood of slaves coursing through my veins. I do not take my history as an American or a black person lightly. And to see that you have someone like Joe Biden walk into a room and say, oh, let me see, what are my best chances? Okay, I need a woman and I need someone with darker pigmentation. And they're going to use Kamala Harris as a tool to manipulate the rest of the culture. Because again, remember what he said. He didn't say Latinos are just diverse in the nature of location, but that they are diverse in thought. So when he's speaking to the black community, and he believes that we are one big monolith in the way that we think, hey, a dark-skinned person, a darker pigmented person, then hey, that's fine, that's good enough for us. And he will use Kamala Harris as a tool to manipulate not just the black community, but the American community as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked that he would be so politically inept to say, if you're not voting for me, you ain't black. And
I mean, just think about the arrogance of that for a white man to pull out his measuring stick and think he can measure my level of blackness. I know exactly who I am. What Joe Biden doesn't realize is that slavery days are over and Jim Crow law no longer exists. So you don't get to tell me who I am, how I should think, or how I should vote. I get to do that on my own. And that's something that the Democratic Party just have not really come to terms with, is that we are free now. And as the black community, I speak to you and tell you to get out of your emotions and recognize when people are manipulating you for your vote. And that's it.
I thank you so much. You got to go check out Kathy Barnette. You got to, hopefully the Candace Owens of the world and the Charlie Kirks of the world hear more about you, and I'm going to do anything I can to help you too. Thank you so much, Kathy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.